I'd like to call to order the Proctor City Council meeting for Monday, March 1st, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Present.
Here, present.
Councilor DeWall,
Present.
Mayor Ward, Councilor Reuter, Attorney Bray is on the phone, is that correct?
He is viewing in and will be available to phone calls if we need him.
Administrator Rich, Megan, and Ted. Looking for a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes from Tuesday, February 16th, 2021.
So move.
Councilor Johnson made that motion. Is there a second? Councilor Benson supports. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the city council and police civil service commission meetings from February 16th, 2021. Make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda. That motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor DeWall. Any further discussion? I'd like to add, on your desk, there were a couple handouts there. Add under 6E, the 2021 home occupation permits, and 6F, we'll add the softball gambling resolution. Any further discussion?
Ms. Mayor? Under 6G, if we could add a legislative update, please.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, we'll take comments and suggestions from the citizens presently watching the YouTube channel. The call-in number for comments or suggestions is 218-628-6289. We'll give that a few seconds here to see if anyone calls in. Hearing none, we'll move on for the time being. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Councilor Johnson made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That'll bring us to 6A, committee and commission application appointment discussion. So in your packet was a rough draft, I believe Administrator Rich put together to field questions or comments regarding this process. Discussion only, so if anyone has any questions or ideas on how to make this process work better, more smoothly, feel free to speak. Councilor Benson.
And I guess this is for the administrator. Do you want us to go through the suggestions, comments here, or would you just like them emailed?
No, I would like them emailed. Because I would like it as a discussion over email individually, and then I can bring those points back, and it can be a working document as we get it filled out. If that answers your question.
So this is an extended process that perhaps might not be accomplished for a few more meetings a month or two out.
Absolutely. So Counselor Benson, some of the commissions and committees have very clear bylaws and guidelines and what govern them. For example, PETA has very good bylaws. We have a good history on that. One committee that we struggled with is the Streets Committee. What exactly is their mission? If someone were to say, I want to be on the Streets Committee, I'd like to hand this document to them and say, this is what they do, these are the terms, these are the committee members present. So there are some documents in City Hall that make this process very clear. There's others that were lacking some information. So it'll be a little bit of historical picking of what historically this has been. For example, the code, the old code and the new code clearly states that these committees would be made up of 2 citizens and 1 city council member. And as you can see in your packet, there's some of the committees have many people on it. How did that come to be? Do we want to keep it to just 3, or do we want to continue the way we're doing? So that if you wanted to have more, then we would have to amend the code. So looking from direction so that we're following the code, but if we want to change it, this would be the time to change it.
And just one thing I talked with Administrator Rich about before the meeting. If you read the document, all the committees have an expiration date on the seats as of January 31st of each year. I would kind of like council's thoughts on that too via email if you'd like to discuss it that way. But do you want the terms to end December 31st of each year, or do you want to give them that extra month like Administrator Rich was talking about, so we can go through the month of January, get everyone seated, and then? But it's something I'd like council to think about.
There's nothing in the code that says it has to be December 31st or January 31st. You can still approve your committee appointments. Counselor Johnson, you had a very good point of setting term lengths for paid commission members, whereas volunteer committees such as Parks and Rec and Beautification and Streets, not necessarily putting term limits on those. And I guess there's a discussion needed to happen about the difference between term limits and term lengths. You know, someone could be part of the Parks Committee forever and ever and ever. They just have to re-up it. You know, they have to like say, yes, I do want to be a part of it. My term was for 3 years and I would like to extend it. It's not that we would deny it. It's just they have to be asked again, or they have to come forward and say they want it. Whereas a term limit would be, you can only serve 3 consecutive terms and then you're done. Which I don't know if that's the direction you want to go either.
No, the memo that I had distributed last meeting was strictly term lengths, but
Okay.
council can discuss that more too, so I was looking at term lengths. Any other discussion on that?
So when you gather all our collective thoughts and ideas, will that come back to us, or will you just take all those ideas and create a hybrid?
Nope, I would bring them back to you so we can discuss those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Well, thanks Administrator Rich for working on that. I know it's been not so pleasant, so.
Gotten to know code very well. Good.
That'll bring us to 6B, 4M LTD fund recommendation. Administrator Rich.
This new program and recommendation is coming from Leslie Brunfeld, our finance director. It was really actually quite timely. Puck had a discussion about, is Puck's money and investment making them enough money and making them the right investment. And while it's true that the 4M fund is not making huge leaps and bounds, you're not losing anything, but they just rolled out this new fund. It hasn't even started yet, but they're getting wanting cities input on it. So Leslie took a look into it, and she has some recommendations when the fund is rolled out for us to do some investing. She has her recommendations on the second page. One question that came from Mayor Ward was, is there a fee for this? And that, we did not know. We did not find that in our research. But we can definitely come back to you with that fee. It's supposed to be at a higher yield than what we're currently getting.
All right, so I guess we'll entertain a motion to accept Leslie's recommendation for investing into the 4M LTD fund. Is there a motion to do so?
So move.
Counselor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Benson.
Thank you. So when it has the sales tax unrestricted funds, we see tourism, but for the sales tax, that is the food and beverage along with just the sales and use tax? Is it all rolled into?
I do not know that, and I can certainly go back to that with her with that question.
Thank you.
I guess I would like to know if there's gonna be a fee and what that fee is before voting on this, but I know there's a, excuse me, a motion and a second already on the floor, but I guess that would be my discussion for the moment. Would there be any other discussion?
That was what I was gonna bring up, Mr. Mayor, is it's hard to approve something without knowing what it's gonna cost us.
Thank you, Counselor.
And you can certainly, the motion can fail due to,
Lack.
yeah.
Yep.
And we'll just go back to the drawing board, that's fine.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Aye. Counselor Benson, Counselor Johnson, did you guys vote on that?
I did not.
You did not?
I'm gonna say no.
So we got Counselor Benson abstained.
No, I didn't abstain. I just thought we'd have a roll call vote following.
Okay, we can do a roll call vote.
If I might ask, the question is maintenance fees for participating in this fund.
Yeah, so the way I understand it, Counselor Benson, is there's two questions. You'd like clarification in what is included in the sales tax and the recommendation. And you'd also like to know what the fees are for the investment. So there was a motion and a second discussion. You have to vote on the motion and the second, whether that it fails, yes or no. If it fails, then we'll come back to it with a better recommendation.
Administrator Rich, would you like to do a roll call vote, or would you like me to?
Sure can.
Or I could just withdraw my motion, or if the second would do that as well.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of that, even if we table this till we find out more information.
Sure. So you have two options. There's a motion and a second, and you can withdraw your motion. And if the person who seconded your motion agrees, you can withdraw it, or you can vote on it, and you can vote no. No for the reason that you need more information. Either one is fine.
Either way works, yeah. So Counselor Benson, you made the motion. Would you like to see a roll call vote, or would you like to rescind your motion?
I could rescind it. It's not that I'm against it.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
I was just curious about the sales tax piece, but I think, the fees would be the big question.
Yep, absolutely.
So I would withdraw that.
And
I
Counselor,
will withdraw the second.
all right. Do we need a motion then to table this, or do we just table it?
We can just table it.
Okay. Table it for next meeting. That'll bring us to 6C, Capital Improvement Plan. A month ago, maybe now, we had a public comment period over this new CIP plan. SEH was here to present this. This is the final draft that is in your packet today, so we're looking for a motion to approve the 2019 Proctor Street and Utility Capital Improvement Plan.
I'll make a motion to approve
Counselor DeWall made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Counselor Benson.
Thank you. And I was just curious, a lot of pages, but I didn't see anything on sidewalks. And it could have been just overlooked, but a lot of infrastructure. I was just wondering why no sidewalks?
I think part of it, Counselor Benson, was assume that if we're redoing the road, we'll be redoing portions of the sidewalk depending on what neighborhoods would like to see in assessments. So I took it as, the way I interpreted it was if we redo a road, we're gonna redo a sidewalk. Just like we have with LMAC, for example. Whether it be both sides, north and south, or one side, I think that's determined when the project comes up to bat.
And also, if I might, the study was commissioned for streets and utilities. Streets and sidewalks, to me, are in two different things. So they didn't include the study and doing an inventory of sidewalks and the condition of the sidewalks in this particular study. But that was, the sidewalks and multimodal transportation was addressed in the Metropolitan Intercouncil Plan as well. That was what they were charged with looking at and planning. Excuse me.
Thank
But
you.
I do agree with Counselor DeWall that they do go hand in hand. If you're gonna redo the street, you're gonna redo the sidewalks.
I was just a little apprehensive since when they did the last couple of projects, they took out trees and there wasn't any thought of replacing them. And I can't think of one project in North America where they do a street project, take out trees without replacing them.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to add on that, because I think trees are important, but I also understand they're kind of a devil's advocate too. I don't think we want trees in our right-of-ways. One, just the damage it does to our infrastructure underneath the ground, the roots intrusion, whether it be sewer and or water, gas. I know some cities, I'm trying to think if it was Grand Rapids or another one, what they looked at was if we put forth a project and the citizens really wanted to have a tree, they would plant it on their property. But then it would raise an assessment too, value of the project, overall project. So that would be kind of a citizen, if they want to pay more for a tree, they can. If they don't want to pay more, then they can't. But as far as trees in road right-of-ways, I think it's going to be a tough sell, especially with engineers, because we'll be looking at problems 5-10 years down the road instead of looking at replacement 20-25 years down the road.
And I understand that because on Fifth Street, when they redid Fifth Street, they took out the trees in the boulevard, planted them on the homeowner's side. But they did replace them. And they did provide that option.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. Bring us to 6D, Northland Alert Emergency Notification Program Participation. Counselor Benson.
Oh, thank you very much. And this was brought up in light of our last meeting, when Councilor DeWall mentioned that, the fire department wasn't alerted until afterwards. And then I started going back in the file, and the city council back in December 2017 thought it was a good enough idea to be part of the Thank you. Sorry about that. To be part of Northland Alert back in 2017. And we do a good job with social media, putting it on a government website, but it's more than that. You should be using all available opportunities. So, without going into a long diatribe, and I get it, the city of Duluth was part of the original group for Northland Alert, and it took them 5 years. They just got on within the last month. So, I understand it, but if it's available and there's little or no cost, let's put that into the mix along with, Proctor Journal. They could do out a blast. City has their social media site. This is just one more tool that we have or could utilize, unless we already have it and are not using it.
All right, so Councilor Benson, you looking for a motion to approve the implementation of Northland Alert for the city of Proctor?
I will move the implementation of Northland Alert.
Councilor Benson made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that for discussion.
Thank you, Councilor DeWall. Any discussion?
So, Counselor Benson, did you say in 2017, the city council took it out?
No, in 2017, it was discussed, and my recollection is to move forward with it because it wasn't a cost to the city. It was already there, and it just never got implemented.
Got it.
And I know I believe 2019, was it the Public Safety Committee met and talked about this as well at one point? And I thought we were going to move forward with it then. I don't know, is there a cost associated with this still, or?
I thought this was a free service.
Okay,
I thought it was free as well.
okay.
It is free.
It is free?
It is free, and I did speak to Chief Gatus about this as well. Yes, it was brought forth by the Public Safety Committee some time ago. At that time, the fire chief and the chief of police did not feel that it was useful for them because they communicate on cell phones and radios, and they can get a hold of the people that they need to. It was brought in front of the Public Utilities Commission, and at that time, the Public Utilities Commission did not think it would be helpful to them either. So that's the last place that it ended up. I'm familiar with the program. I've had experience in it, and there's a couple niches about it that make it problematic is you have to subscribe to it. So when we implemented this in another community, the problem was with the technology, and the people who would subscribe to it were not familiar with the technology, and they became frustrated with it, so they didn't subscribe to it. It does not a blast that goes out to everybody. You have to sign up for it. You have to have a username. You have to have a login. And so that was very problematic for the aging community. It was. And the younger people rely on their social media. So there was a gap in usage there. This was some time ago. I don't know if things have changed, and then also you do have to have someone that is a designated user that will get those alerts out. A spokesperson, a username, a password, a designated proxy to do it. So if it's not utilized, it's a tool that's really not useful. Like anything. If you don't use it, it's not useful. But the problem lies in the subscription of it is where it kind of gets questionable.
Administrator Rich, is there a charge for a citizen to subscribe to that service?
No, there's not.
So what would it entail for a city employee to be responsible for getting notifications out? just logging in and typing something up?
Yep, coordinating with who's ever in charge of that particular emergency or issue, getting the information that needs to get out, logging in, setting it up, you press the button, and then it goes out to anyone who's subscribed. Again, they have to sign up for it, it's not automatic to everyone. And then that person chooses whether they wanted to receive their notification via email, a text message, or a phone call. I've only seen it work once in the community that I came from. And again, it touched very few people because of the subscription. And then you would do, public service announcements of getting people to sign up, and you'd have to get them through that process of signing up.
Okay.
Well, if it's, Mr. Mayor, if it's not going to be, useful, I certainly don't want to add another thing, another task to, during an emergency situation. On the other hand, if it could be helpful to our citizens, we don't have to certainly vote on it at this meeting. We could do some more research, but at least, we got it back on the agenda and, having that discussion again.
Yeah, and I know Administrator Rich and I have spoke. I think Chief Gaddis was also in the room during this conversation, but we talked about, or you brought up, maybe putting a blast email together with all the media sources. If we do have to make an emergency announcement, that everyone can have it typed up on their computer in one button, and it goes out to all the media and anyone else that we need to. Is that something we could look at too?
Sure, absolutely. We've already started on that list
Perfect.
too. That should be a part of the emergency operations
Perfect.
plan anyways.
Well, there is a motion and a second on the floor for implementing Northland Alert. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
Administrator Rich, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Mayor Ward,
No.
Councillor DeWall,
Aye.
Councillor Johnson,
No.
Councillor Benson.
Aye.
Tie vote, so,
Not here.
and John's not here. Motion fails, I believe.
It fails, yeah.
But we can bring it up. I just want to look at it a little closer. I'm all in favor of offering that to the citizens at no cost. I just want to do some research on my own, and we can bring this up again.
What we can do is call some communities and ask how it's
Yeah.
being used in their community and if they feel it's successful.
And I believe Councillor DeWall or Councillor Benson will have to bring this up again in a couple weeks or whenever. I just want to do some research on it.
In a nutshell, all I see it as one more task. Somebody's got to be here responsible, whether it's a water break, power outage, flood. Somebody's already here, or somebody from here is already going to put something on our Facebook pages, websites. To have something pre-orchestrated put out on this might capture another 25% of our community members, and I think it's worthwhile because then we don't have people here getting flooded and our voice messages machines filling up. It'll be just another blast source. And I
Nope.
think it's just going to take some education.
No, I think
Are we-
it could be a good program to utilize. Like I said, I just want to do some research.
Are we still in discussion, basically, with this? And if it helps two community members, I guess I would be in favor of it. But to me, if this isn't coming from a recommendation from one of our commissions or one of our committees, then we've bypassed the steps taken for what we're doing. And it hasn't come from them to recommend to us to vote on this in a positive way. So I think we're missing the boat here on where the recommendations need to come from.
It did come from public safety. So maybe that's where we need to start again, is public safety. They did recommend it a while ago,
In 19, we did.
and we
yeah.
just never followed through on it.
Okay, but then didn't the police chief and the fire chief say no?
They didn't say no, they just said they had other means for themselves.
Okay.
But we're not talking about the chief of any chief. We're talking about our citizens. and
Correct.
How we communicate to them. Our chiefs aren't going to have time to call citizens. This is something that could be automated to where if they have to set up, you know, an example could have been that Chase here just recently, you know.
Or the
it's
power outage.
power outages, so that we don't have a floodgate of people calling City Hall. It's just too much for people to answer the phone, and then people get frustrated because they're not getting an answer. And obviously, people aren't looking at our Facebook page to be known that there's a power outage if they're calling City Hall or our website. You know, so I just, if it can catch a small percentage, I think it just helps us citizens, and if it's free. But you're right. Have it go through public safety one
Yes.
more time again and get a better recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll bring us to 6E, 2021 home occupancy permits. On your desk this afternoon, Megan put a letter that she sent out to all the home occupation permits, businesses that applied, and there are a list of, I believe, 5 or 6. 6 of them. We're looking for a motion to approve the home occupation permits. Counselor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. Bring us to 6F, Resolution 14-21, charitable gambling license for the Proctor Youth Area Softball Association. Looks like they will be having a raffle. And we are looking for a motion to approve the resolution. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Bring us to 6G, legislative update. Counselor Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just to let everyone know that the deadline is rapidly approaching for the legislature to act favorably on any sort of bills, and that's Friday, March 12th. If we have any ideas that we'd like to present to the legislature, we'd probably have to have a special meeting at this point. The state legislature, Department of Revenue, ended up going from a $1 billion plus deficit to a $1 billion surplus. Governor is proposing his own bonding bill. So that's that. If you have any ideas, please get it to the administrator, and we still have some time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. That will bring us down to members' concerns. Administrator Rich.
I just wanted to give everyone an update on the playground for everybody. This funding is coming from the state DNR offices, but it was funded by federal funding. And when COVID hit, this particular office that has to approve the federal funding to come to the state, there was one historical test that had to go through, and that particular office closed, or they suspended their decisions until a better time during COVID that they could. As a result, the DNR has not been able to release us to spend money on the Playground for Everybody project. Last week, after follow-up, they submitted a waiver to the federal government, and I did speak to Congressman Stauber's office on this as well to see if they could get, on a federal level, if they could get things moving. They submitted a waiver to the federal office authorizing us to start spending money on this, pending approval. I don't know if that I'm completely comfortable doing that, being that it is tied to some historical release. So at this time, we're okay not to spend the money. We've got an extension on the St. Louis County CDBG money, and we're just waiting for the federal release on the DNR money. Project is still viable and it will still happen. It's just being delayed a bit. Are there any questions on that? No? Last week, we discovered water on the boiler room floor, and Johnson Controls came in and they confirmed that there are 2 of the they were backup boilers, are now leaking, and we were not using them. They were only for backup, but we can now for sure not use 2 of the gas boilers for backup. So that leaves us with 1 operable, which really wasn't far off from where we left now, but now we know that 2 and 3 are completely not usable. The problem is that in order to stop the leaks, they had to isolate the water to all of the boilers. So if we need that gas boiler, Johnson Controls will have to come in and manually fire it up, which was what the plan was anyways to begin with. We just will have some leaks in 2 boilers while we're in our backup phase, because they'll have to turn the water back on. Johnson Controls recommends replacing the gas boiler. I think we kind of all knew this was going to be a decision that we would have to make eventually. I am working with SEH and to get load capacity and load limits for this building so we can determine what size of boiler we need to replace it with. And then again, the whole thought is to have a gas boiler that turns on automatically when the electric boiler's out. So just to give you an update on that, we're working with SEH and Johnson Controls on. And finally, there was a little bit of a hiccup in our sales tax legislation submittal. We had submitted a request for exemption on any sales tax for the purchase of construction materials on the sand and salt shed. And somewhere in the middle of it, the local sales tax resolution, which you approved over a year ago, was submitted. And once we discovered it, thank you, Councilor Benson, it was quickly we withdrew it. Representative Murphy withdrew it, but we got it resolved in this. So the sales tax exemption legislation is still being moved forward.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Administrator Rich regarding those 3? No? We'll move on to Councilor Benson.
I have nothing.
Okay. Councilor DeWall.
Just a couple things. Just wanted to say thank you to the Proctor Police and Proctor Fire Departments, specifically Officer Mosier and Officer Rebo, and Chief Elquist and the crew, along with Solway, Kenosha, and Hermantown Fire Departments for the K9 Luna tribute on Boundary. And then my next question is, and this will be for another meeting, I'm assuming we have a master list of home occupant permits. We have a master list from like last year. I just see a lot that aren't on here, and some that may be new and they may not know that they need. We're not trying to kill any business, but we just want to make sure we're following the procedure. I'm wondering how or what we could do to get I would start with last year's list. I know there's some that I don't see on here for approval.
I would recommend, if I can, Mayor, that if you have a parcel that you're in particular, just forward that to us and we can follow up with them and do more of education and talking with them about that.
Anything further, Councilor DeWall?
No.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Just thank you to Russell Haberman and the Historical Committee for that sign that was put up. It looks really nice.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with Counselor Johnson. The sign turned out very nice. It'll be a nice attraction. And Counselor DeWall, I agree with you. That was a nice tribute the other day. I did send Chief Helquist, Chief Gatus a text after that procession, but that job well done there. I just got one thing. Administrator Rich and I will be attending the St. Louis County Duluth Capital Days, March 3rd and 4th of this week. So we'll keep you updated on any exciting news there, but that's what we'll be doing this week. Other than that, I have nothing further. And Attorney Bray is viewing, so looking for a motion to approve the bills.
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Counselor DeWall made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you.